Hey there, everybody. I am DJ Riley, one of the hosts from Boys on the Bench, and I'm back with my top 6 NBA plays for this really condensed NBA slate today where we only see 4 games. But if y'all were following along yesterday, hopefully some of y'all told because we went 5-0 and had a mega sweep hitting that 10 times multiplier to conclude the last day of January. And honestly, one of the easiest bets that I made yesterday was that Wendell Carter Jr. going over 10.5 points. And I've got to give all of the credit to Daily Grind Fantasy. This was a bet that cashed in the first half, and they gave us such good odds along with many others throughout the day. I also made one later on throughout the day for that late night game between Portland and Milwaukee. And it just missed with Jeremy Grant going over when I needed him to go under, but he went over by just 1 point. So with that said, I really want y'all to start utilizing Daily Grind Fantasy. So I will be making 2 different slips today. The first slip that I will be making is using just Daily Grind Fantasy. And guys, when I tell you, it takes no more than 3 to 5 minutes to make these slips. I am not even kidding. They do all of the upfront work for you and really take the stress and the research and everything out of it. I'll go over some things that make sure that you know what you're looking at when you're looking at Daily Grind Fantasy. And if you wanted to look at the link in the description, you can go ahead and click that and follow along with me. So check that out before we jump into this. The second slip that I will be making, though, is the typical one if you've been following along, where I have my favorite picks for today based on all this different research, as well as referencing Daily Grind Fantasy as well in terms of what we're getting for positive EV. So anyways, also, make sure that you're checking out that X profile. All of the picks are posted there every single day. It's 100% free. So join that. It's in the description. Let's go ahead and jump into this video for today, creating this first slip for us. So once you get here, you will see a lot of these plays that are up here at that 58%. When we're really looking for what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, you can start to see where it goes green to yellow, and you scroll further down, and then it goes orange, and then into red. So really what we're looking for is that 54%. And that 54% is kind of that magic number for us. And looking at what leagues these are, you've probably never heard of some of these people. I haven't either. I know nothing about League of Legends, Call of Duty, any of this other stuff here. But what I do notice is this is giving it a 58% chance to hit with an average line of minus 190. So you are getting insane odds in terms of positive EV. Now, the best thing to do is what I prefer to do is ones that have lines with multiple books that have lines for them. So you can see that this first one here has 3 separate lines for him going under 8 kills within the first maps 1 to 2. You can see underdog is here at 7, this book is 6.5, and this one at 7.5. PrizePicks is currently offering this at 8. They are giving you essentially a 1 point edge to a 1.5 point edge, and it's 3 different books. I like this. This is one that I would probably stay away from, although it is giving you pretty good odds. Currently, there's only 1 book offering it, so they don't have a bunch of data to necessarily go off of. Now, it is good at 55%, but I do like this Summit. So if I go over to PrizePicks, I want to throw that into a bet. So let me go to League of Legends, type in Summit. We see here it's already at 8, so we want to hit the less on that because other books are telling us that they are predicting this to be much less. And right here, you can tell the prediction that they want you to take, which is that under. So if we look at the next one, Bakuda, I believe that's also, what is that, League of Legends. Again, we see 2 books are betting on this. Right now, PrizePicks is offering this at 2. 2 other books are offering this at 2.5. So they want us to take the over on this for just the map 1 kills. So if I copy his name here, go back to PrizePicks, it's still League of Legends, paste it here. My bad, typed in X before. Okay, we see that there is 2, and we want to take the more. So then let's go back. I want to get at least 3 more in this. This is one that I said I would stay away from because we only have the 1 book betting on that. Now, Trigo, we see here going over 5 other books. 3 other books are offering this at 5.5. So again, gives us a good opportunity for a push 2 if we hit that 5, which is awesome for us. So let's go ahead and do Trigo as well. Go back to PrizePicks. See it at 5. We hit the over. So now looking for just 2 more bets here. Let's see how many. This one has 4 different books betting on it, and we're getting 55% chance odds to hit, saying to go over 4 here. Other books are offering this 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, and then we see the 5.5, giving us a 1.5 point edge here. So Grell, is that another League of Legends? It sure is. Perfect. 4, and they want us to go more on that again. So let's look for just that one more play here that has decent books betting on it. So we can see here now we're starting to get into just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then we get into the NBA plays for today. There was one more up here that gave us 2, and we might as well just keep it all League of Legends today with all of these plays. So really that was the only one we skipped. So let's go back here, copy this guy's name. Looking for over 3. We have 2 other books offering this at 3.5. So go here, copy paste. We see 3, and they want us to go with the more, right? Or the over here. So going back, put a little bit of money down on this. We have 10% odds. We have a couple opportunities for pushes with whole numbers 3, 4, 5, 2, and 8. So yeah, I'm just going to drop some money on this and hope it hits. And honestly, like I said, Daily Grind Fantasy has been hitting like crazy. So it's as simple as that whenever you're using Daily Grind Fantasy to make these bets. It literally just takes 3 to 5 minutes. You look at which ones have very good percentage odds to hit, and typically ones that I like that have multiple books with lines on that player. And really, you put those in a parlay, cross your fingers, hope for the best. And Daily Grind Fantasy typically has you covered. So don't think again. Look in the link in the description, guys. I can't tell you that enough. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into my top 6 NBA bets for today. First on this list is Derek White going over 2.5 3-pointers made. Looking at his opponent in the LA Lakers, they do have a 1-game history on Christmas Day. In that game, Derek White had 2 3-pointers made on 4 3-point attempts. So he did just miss this. He hooked this line going under with just 2 3-pointers made. Now, looking at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, they're giving us a 51.1% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 120. Looking at his recent performances, however, over his last 5 and last 10, he has hit this over in 3 out of his last 5 and 7 out of his last 10. Now, over the span of his last 10 games, he is shooting an average of 7.5 3-point attempts per game and making 33% of them. So he's been highly effective. He's had a decent volume in terms of 3-point attempts. But where I really like him is that the Lakers rank dead last in terms of 3-pointers made in the NBA, and then 10th highest 3-point percentage allowed to opposing teams. Now, also looking at how the Lakers have done versus the shooting guard position, they have allowed 6 out of the last 7 shooting guards to hit their over in 3-pointers made, and they've all also hit 3+ 3-pointers in that game. So looking at how the Lakers have done versus the shooting guard position throughout the entire season, they're kind of middle of the pack, allowing the 18th most, but over the last week to 2 weeks, they have struggled greatly versus the shooting guard position, where on the other hand, Derek White has been very dominant. But let's go ahead and move on to the next player, and that is his teammate Kristaps Porzingis going under 19.5 points. Again, the 1-game history on Christmas Day, we saw Kristaps Porzingis go for 28 points on 35 minutes. So definitely would have cleared this over by quite a bit. And now if we look at what positive EV we're getting from Daily Grind Fantasy, we see that we're getting 52.1% chance of hitting with an average line of minus 127. Looking at recent performances, last 5, last 10, he has hit this under in 3 out of his last 5 and 8 out of his last 10. Now, if we look at his usage over these last 10 games, it has been a little bit of a roller coaster where we see him take less than double-digit field goal attempts, and then it spikes up to multiple or over double-digit field goal attempts. So one thing that's remained consistent, however, no matter how many field goal attempts we see him taking, he's really only making 6 of those field goal attempts per game. Over his last 10 games, he has only made over 6 field goal attempts in one of those games, and it took him over 21 field goal attempts in order to do that. So he isn't very effective. He doesn't get a ton of usage in this Boston offense. So I really like him in this matchup versus the Lakers, who again are middle of the pack in terms of points allowed to the center position, allowing the 14th least. But let's go ahead and move on to the next pick, and it is sticking with this game, but it's the other side of the ball, and that's Anthony Davis going over 14.5 rebounds plus assists. Again, one game history on Christmas Day, we saw Anthony Davis go for 17 rebounds plus assist in that game. In terms of positive EV and what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, they're giving this a 53% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 133. So again, decent odds here. We want that 54%. 53% is pretty solid for us here as well for these NBA bets. Now, recent performances and how he's done his last 5, last 10, he has hit this over in 3 out of his last 5, 7 out of his last 10, and even 19 out of his last 30. Now, I really love this spot for him because Anthony Davis has just been a beast on the offensive rebounds. And that's been a strength of his all season. We can see that he's averaged 3+ offensive rebounds in his last 10 games. And if we look at his entire season and games where he's had at least 3 offensive rebounds, he's hit this line in 21 out of 28 games, which is 75% of the time. Boston currently allows the 5th most offensive rebounds in all of the NBA. So the fact that Anthony Davis has been doing very well offensive rebounds, and Boston has struggled all season long at defending against offensive rebounds allowed to the opposing team, Anthony Davis is going to put himself in a very good spot today. Now, looking at how Boston does versus centers for rebounds plus assists, they've allowed the 4th least. So it is a tougher matchup if you look at it in that regard, but Anthony Davis has been on a tear recently, and he's just a beast on the offensive rebounds, where that is Boston's struggles. But let's go ahead and move on to the next pick, and we are getting out of this game, but it's OG Anunoby going over 19.5 points versus this Indiana Pacers team. He does not have a head-to-head matchup versus the Pacers as a New York Knick. So if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us in terms of positive EV, not too great. 48.9% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 111. So kind of going against what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us and what all the books are saying. But if we look at recent performances, he has hit the over in only 1 out of his last 5 and 2 out of his last 10. Now, the difference is that there is no Julius Randle in this game. He's already been ruled out with an injury. But then also the Pacers just stink at stopping teams from scoring, and really the small forward position where we see OG Anunoby playing, they allow the 5th most points to the small forward position. Right now, OG Anunoby has a current usage rate in this Knicks offense of about 17%, but with Randall out, I easily see that's going over 20% for today. So I fully expect him to just dominate the Pacers, who allow a ton of points every single game and really a ton of points to the small forward position. So yes, he doesn't have a good recent performance in his last 5 and last 10, but with Julius Randle out, I fully expect those to kind of be things of the past, and he's going to take over this game. Now, let's move on to the next pick, and that's Isaiah Hartenstein going under 10.5 rebounds. He does, as a Knick, have a history versus this Indiana Pacers team, and that was on December 20th. In that game, we saw him have 9 rebounds on 33 minutes of play. So we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us. They're giving us a 54% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 138. Now, if we look at recent performances and how he's done, he's hit the under in 3 out of his last 5, but then also 3 out of his last 10. So if we go all the way back to his last 30, however, he has hit the under in 18 out of his last 30. So needless to say, he's found very good success over his last 10 hitting the over and not the under. But with how dominant Indiana is versus rebounds, I don't see that happening, and especially versus centers. Currently, right now, they allow the 7th least rebounds to the center position and 10th least rebounds, total rebounds in all of the NBA. So right now, if we look at how Indiana has done versus their last 20 centers, they've allowed 5 out of their last 20 centers to have double-digit rebounds versus them. 15 have failed to meet that mark. And even if Isaiah Hartenstein hits 10, we still win it. But there's only been 5 out of the last 20 centers to hit double digits versus this Indiana Pacers team. So really like Hartenstein to stay under 10.5 in this matchup. Now let's move on to the last pick that I have for today, and that's Donovan Mitchell going under 6.5 assists versus this Memphis Grizzlies team. They do not have a head-to-head matchup this season. And if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, they are giving us a 53.9% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 138. So again, very good odds. We're sitting right around that 54%, which is right where we want to be. Now, if we look at recent performances, he has hit the under in only 1 out of his last 5 and 2 out of his last 10. So of Memphis's last 20 shooting guards, they have only let one hit over 7 assists versus them. That player was James Harden, who hit 9 assists, but he still went under for the game because his line was set at 9.5. So Mitchell has been dominant as a passer here of late, but I see this game being a blowout potential versus an injury-ridden Grizzlies team and versus one of the best defensive teams in the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it's hard to see Donovan Mitchell playing 30 plus minutes in this game. So really like him staying under 6.5 assists. Now, if we look at how Memphis does versus shooting guards as well, they allow the 7th most. So it looks like a lot of stuff is adding up against him. If you look at recent performances and how Memphis is versus shooting guards, it doesn't look too well. But what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us is that 53.9% chance of hitting. The books know a lot more research than I do. So I'm going to listen to the books here in this and blowout potential game. That's a real possibility in this matchup. However, guys, these are my top 6 NBA picks for today. Also, and like I said, make sure you're following along with X because I will be posting more picks there daily as they come out, as these games get closer to tip off. So make sure you're following along there. You can find that link in the description below. Follow me at DJ_BoysOTB and follow our main page, Boys on the Bench. Also, make sure you're checking out that Daily Grind Fantasy, guys. It was crazy yesterday. It's going to be crazy again today and probably every day after that. Anyways, best of luck to everybody. Let's have another 5-0, 6-0 sweep. Let's see. Whatever. See y'all next time.